Dementia is a long journey, 8 to 10 years on average from the time symptoms are observed until end of life. And so as humans, we all evolve over 10 years. And as people living with a disease that is underlying this dementia, that disease is progressing. It is a progressive and degenerative illness. And so we expect symptoms to evolve. Sometimes policymakers ask things like, maybe resources need to be most intensive early in the disease, because once things are under control, they're sort of coasting for the rest of the journey. Sometimes people clinically think maybe the resources should be focused and concentrated at the end of the disease journey when there's so much more hands-on care. That probably does closely mimic what actually happens in terms of healthcare interactions. The reality is people have needs. They change over time. But during the entire course of illness, there are some very specific needs. Early on in symptom expression, we often think about things like repetition, repeating the same story over and over, maybe in a shortening span of time. Some of my families talk about the conversation loop and that the loop shortens. There are things that are less noticeable then, though, like judgment or discernment. This is one of the reasons people, even with mild cognitive impairment, often fall victim to scams. As the disease progresses, it is more common to have changes in more obvious behaviors. Maybe that's why we consider it a behavioral syndrome. But that mood also changes. Neurotransmitters are changing. Levels of serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, those are all changing as we are losing more neurons. Most of the time we notice the more active behaviors in the moderate stage. So that may be the time when we want to focus most intensively on the neuropsychiatric symptoms. That doesn't mean there haven't been other symptoms early on that we could have and should have addressed. Depression, for example, very common early in the disease state. Anxiety as well. Those are very treatable and manageable conditions for older people, including those living with dementia.